The state of the transgender community today. You're going to want to stick around. You're probably going to want to share what I have to say today because this has been a long time coming, and it's certainly something that affects me as a long-time person in the trans community on social media and in real life. Stay tuned. And first off, I want to welcome you. 2023 is just around the corner as I record this, and I hope that you have a healthy and prosperous 2023. And I hope you'll take a second to hit the subscribe button down below and the bell for all notifications. I have a fun variety channel. It's not often I tackle serious problems, but I've been requested to so many times, and I do have little forays into the state of the community and the state of the world, sometimes in my afternoon streams. But it's important to verbalize things as time goes on, because so much has changed in my particular community. The way that you were determined to be transgender has changed. The methodology that you go about being treated in the transgender community has changed so much, and society's outlook and opinions on the transgender community, it's always a moving sort of ship at sea that your mileage may vary depending on the person that's watching the scene unfold in front of them. And my big concern today is that the community, and this is not going to be winning me any friends within the community, but I haven't had that many anyway, because I'm not one to toes the company line when it comes to that we need to be advocates, that there's something special about somebody who's transgender, something that puts us apart from the average person in America. Well, I grew up in a time when equality was drilled into my head, and I was never taught to believe that there's something inherently special about anybody within, say, American society. We're all theoretically equal. Of course, some are more equal than others. But growing up, I always had the sense that equality was something that was, if not ever achieved, it's something that we should be striving for. And I get very concerned as time went on and I got older, and especially the last 10 years, I've seen tribalization in America, and I've seen people breaking up into splinter groups and self-advocacy, and we're special, we're special, we're special. And so many things have changed. For example, I'm all about equality and marriage and LGBT rights, but only the same rights as other people have, straight people within society. And I think that the thing that I've noticed most over time is the LGBT community now more leads with sexual orientation and sexuality as an opening line. For example, my wonderful friend Bobby, who worked as a trainer for many years for people that transport other people in wheelchairs, paratransit they call it. And it's a pretty bit demanding job. So one day Bobby's training, a new guy comes across the parking lot. Bobby's meeting him for the first time. Bobby doesn't hire him. Bobby trains him and determines if they're going to be suitable for the job. And this guy, Bobby said was about 35 years old, approaches Bobby. They're walking towards the van to start the first day, and the guy sticks out his hand and says, you know, I'm Terry and I'm gay. Right? And Bobby's like, well, I'm Bobby, I'm straight, and I'm your trainer. Right? I mean, this is the type of thing these days that sexuality used to be something that was it wasn't really discussed. It was never a leading sphere of a person's entity or discussion. But now it's important that we proclaim, I'm gay, I'm trans, and we make sure that everybody is aware of that fact. The problem is, built into that awareness is a de facto or an implicit imperative that because I'm telling you this, This elevates me to some status within society that's probably better than you are, right? I just want you to be aware, my sexual orientation is this, right? And I believe that this is what I want you to think about when you see me. Not that I'm a good driver, not that I have a lot of heart and caring for people, which I'm sure this guy did. But to lead with that was so symptomatic of me to some of the ills of society today, particularly in the transgender community. This idea that somehow we're inherently special because there's not a lot of us. Well, there used to be a hell of a lot fewer of us because the gateways to being transgender did not go through the very wide cast net and thick stitch net we had today, where if you say I am, well, you are, and people have to stand up for that. I remember I got kicked out of a community one time on Twitch, and one of the most horrifying trans women I've ever encountered in my life over there, who believes herself to be a huge trans advocate, but at the end of the day is damaging and leading so many people that come for information and enlightenment, and leading them to think, because you look at me and the way that I turned out and the way I seem to be transitorily happy, meaning happy at this particular moment, that this is peachy keen and this is the right thing for you. Well, I got ousted because I believe that the road to being documented or diagnosed as being transgender, the barriers fell so much today that it was almost like you show up, declare it, and this is what I am. And social media is so complicit in this sweeping change that's occurred, because it's put ideas into people's head that they would not naturally have come to on their own. Their friend Georgina declares, I have gender issues, I think I'm transgender. Other gals taking interest, friends, yeah, well, Georgina's this, I probably am too. And these days we have 3 times the number of females that declare themselves as gender questioning than we had 10 years ago. Think about that. Because of the influences of social media and the feeling, well, if it's right for Georgina, this might be why I'm not feeling good, Mom, because I'm born in the wrong body. And these days, although you have to get your parents' permission to get a tattoo, in so many school districts and areas of the country, and LA was a great example, you come in as a young person under 18 years old, so what? You declare I'm trans, maybe they take you away from a parent, they put you in a relationship where you get counseling, you get put on puberty blockers, and in the worst case scenario, or horrors of surgery, and you've potentially ruined your own life. Well, the path was too easy to go through. It was simply a result of what I call the buildup of the trans-industrial complex over the last 10 years, that it's such a great business to be in. Surgeries and the therapies and the hormones and things, and we're making kids happy. No, you're destroying kids' lives, and this is what I agree with Andrew Tate about. Not many other things I do, but leave the kids alone. Because of our orientation and who we believe that we are does not give us any inherent right to advocate at any time for other people. Those of you who are truly transgendered, which I'm afraid is a very small number these days, are likely to be pretty well adjusted and pretty happy. But those that came through the open sluice gate of anything goes and You get hormones, you get hormones, you get puberty blockers. You don't need to go through counseling. No, I don't care what your parents tell you. You listen to us. Your parents are old school, they're funky, they have no idea what's going on with today's world. But they do love you. But you won't hear that from the counseling side. So we created this whole trans-industrial complex. To the point that finally one of the women in England that was a counselor for many years and associated with the Tavistock Clinic, which was a famous, they're closing it down, thank God, in the UK, was associated for years. She just threw up her hands last year and just said, whoa, well, we're not even vetting people that come anymore that declare that they have their gender challenged or whatever. We're gatewaying them and just saying, don't worry, do not worry, be happy. Well, I would say if you're willing to take a pen and a contract and sign that you will be responsible because you made this decision as a counselor for this person, this girl or boy, young man or young woman, if you'll sign it, you'll be responsible for their happiness in life. Yeah, go ahead with your procedures, your drugging that you want to do, your operation. Oh, hell no. See, back in the day, folks, and what we fail to understand these days is so many people have gotten the idea that they're gender challenged or perhaps transgender because of social media. And the attention, and one of the worst things that came along was all the attention on the Jazz Jennings and that whole situation. And it made people sit up and notice, and it opened a door, perhaps it shouldn't be open, because being trans is a very individual experience, and being truly transgender means that it comes from within. It's a dissonance and a discomfort that drives you to get relief. It's not driven from my friends are doing this, or my teacher in school is teaching us about gender, and this is probably why I'm unhappy, Mom and Dad, and I need to be on the hormones now, and I'm going to do something bad to myself if I don't get them, blah, blah, blah. The evilness, the inherent evilness of much of social media is responsible for putting ideas into people's head that did not come from within. I guess I'm saying back in the day, there was no social media influence. If you sat there and scratching your head, and I wonder why I feel the way I do now, I resist it. You know, I got family, I have to take care of that. I got responsibilities. Please stop. It doesn't stop. But you knew it came from within here. You weren't getting it from social media anywhere. It was a purity to it. And then if you declared yourself and you went into counseling, and you had to really get the guts to tell people what you think you are, family, friends, and other things. And then you step up to go to counseling, and man, it is going to be an ordeal. Why? Because it's an ordeal that potentially saves your life, keeping you from going down a road that you may not be aware of all of the potential bitter consequences of that. So we would have group sessions. We would go out. You had to dress. Before hormones, before there was any blockers or anything like that, you had to do what's called the RLE, the real life experience, which means as much as you may not look female at that moment, you still needed to dress up there, get out on the street, and live as a female. Present as that. Oh, Nelly. Whole lot of people started in the program and the group experience and counseling I have. And of course they fell by the wayside because they understood, well, there's probably something else going on. And some of these people were able to achieve relief from what was really cases of depression. And how many people in the trans community that you know suffer from mental challenges and things? I would say a lot of it. And a lot of them are walking around thinking that this was this was the key to happiness, and they're finding out, no, it's probably something else, and they go back and forth, transition, detransition, transition, detransition, because it's a recognition that there could be other things going on in the mind that need to be explored. But now we can't do that. We cannot be. I was called a gatekeeper, and I was kicked out of that community on Twitch because I dared to say that I think the old school way of counseling and going through the gates prevented a lot of people, well, from fucking up their lives. But somehow or other, over the last 10 years, with probably some type of guilt trip that was being laid on society, that's going to cost us dearly in the future as the trans and LGBT community. Trust me, when stuff hits the fan, as it will coming up, and society has issues and starts to come unhinged, do I need to go down that road when people start looking at forces that tore America apart and things like that? And they yearn for the good old days, and a lot of times they'll be right. All right? Because there's a lot of people walking around that pushed advocacy now, not realizing that it comes from within, not taking account the powerful influence of social media as the only way to explain how you now have triple the number of females involved in that are gender questioning that you had before. But nobody wants to put their finger on that because, ooh, that's a weak rationale for allowing somebody to mess up their life and to get on hormones and destroy every aspect of it, burn every bridge behind it. But you're happy. Yeah, you're happy for maybe a month, a year. Then you find out transitioning and everything that goes with it. It's not the panacea of happiness that you thought it was going to be. Right? See, 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, when I started, 13, 14, 15, well, back in 2001, when I really started fighting in my own mind in the late 1990s and things, I still had a high sense of responsibility. And I knew this was not something to be taken lightly, and society didn't teach me that it was something to be taken lightly because transgender people were few and far between, and now they're still few and far between, but they're overdiagnosed as being trans, when I don't believe that they are. And this has caused a dropping of respect for the community. Back 10 years ago, when people knew what you had to go through or cared to understand, they understood that every Tom, Dick, and Harry that stood on the street corner that declared themselves as transgender wouldn't be able to, get hormones and potentially mess up their life. But because we went to this mode of probably societal guilt or something, it's like, we don't want to stand in your way. These young people, I don't want Johnny unhappy at home, and I'd say to hell with that. Johnny, you make your hair pink, you wear a dress every day at school, but you're not gonna do anything physically to yourself. I think it's called parenting. Okay, I think it's called the ability to say no. But see, we have experts that tell us, you're going to mess Johnny up. No, you might be saving Johnny's life. And those therapists and those non-gatekeepers, they're not going to be around in 5 years when Johnny's really on the edge, okay, or Susie's really got some issues. They're going to be long gone. Well, okay, right. Well, let me tell you, the lawsuits are going to fly fast and furious, too. But I think my point was there was a grudging respect for the community back then because people kind of had an idea this really is a rare thing, and they're not asking for anything more than anybody else in society. They're not asking to be treated as women, and I'm sorry, trans community will never be women. But we find relief in our mind through therapies and other things that allow us to live our lives, but we will never be women. And it's another thing that got me kicked out of the community was this lack of recognition. I'm all woman now because, well, my birth certificate's been changed to say so and my driver's license. Really? I guess I could go to court and be a porcupine if I want. Right? So the respect has been coming down. And I'll end on this with the great Jackie Robinson story. And many of you won't even know who Jackie Robinson. He was the first black baseball player to break into the major leagues. And Jackie Robinson understood that to win hearts and minds, you go out and play the game. You live like everybody else. No special rules, nothing. And when Jackie Robinson showed up to play for the Brooklyn Dodgers first games, there were people that threw hot dogs and beer and popcorn and cursed the N-word and all around the nation when they would travel the Brooklyn Dodgers and things like that. But you know, Jackie Robinson figured the way I'm going to win hearts and minds is I'm going to pick up this baseball bat and this glove and this ball, and I'm going to play baseball to the best of my ability. And that's exactly what Jackie Robinson did. He didn't pick up protest signs, go jumping on the street and complaining. There were plenty of advocates that were doing that. He knew the best thing he could do to pave the path in baseball to straighten the path even more for blacks to come into baseball and people of colors was to go out and play. And he played well. And over time, people stopped caring about the color of the skin, and they cared because the Brooklyn Dodgers were winning. And Jackie Robinson became like the heart and soul of the team, and he became beloved. Right? Because he went out and he won hearts and minds, not by asking for special favors, but going out and with his teammates going out and playing. No special treatment. And over time, his teammates were like, we're tired of Jackie Robinson being sent to a separate hotel when we're on the road to stay. We're a team. We're together. Things change. Every time we demand as a person in society, or we try to convey to people that there's something special about us apart from other people in society, we usually end up in the long run regretting that. Okay, there's something beautiful in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, and we spend so much of our lives making things unequal. And today on the trans community, I never felt like 10 years ago there was a target on my back. I felt like, okay, we're outliers. People don't really care that much. Okay, we're freaks, we're goofs, but we went about living our lives, and over time on social media in those early days, we got more and more acceptance. I picked up more and more subscribers along the way. Never been a darling of the trans community because I can't be an advocate of something that I don't believe in. Okay. But nowadays, as society comes under pressure, and you have groups that advocated to start indoctrinating young children with sex education and gender-bred dolls, and it reached a point where finally sane people stood up and said, no mas, man. We have the right to be transgender from within, but we do not have the right to inculcate our experience into others. Do you understand that so many children today can't even read or write or get through high school and are functionally illiterate? And I'm going to worry about teaching with gender-bred and gender issues when they're young. Is that enlightened in society? I don't think so. And I applaud the efforts in places like Texas and Florida for putting a dose of sanity back in the world and giving kids their lives back. Okay, we got a long way to go in that regard. And if you're trans and you hate my guts because of what I stand for and what I believe, well, you got your opinion and I got mine. Okay, as I said, I never will be a darling of the trans community because I don't play the advocacy game. I've never presented myself as more special or more unique than anybody else in my society because I had to do what I had to do to feel good about myself. I would never have dared to be an advocate of this life for others. Well, just give it a chance. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens on the hormones and the blockers. Are you kidding me? Being trans comes from here, but social media made it come from out there. I hope you've derived some benefit from this today, and I appreciate you being here. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe because, well, I have a fun channel. I have a variety channel. It's not often I talk about these topics, but I want to be on the record, and I have been for a long time. I tried to be on places like Twitch, but because they don't save live streams, there's no sense to it. There's no sense to it. But perhaps this will be shared, and I hope that you share that within your community. And once again, I do wish you a happy new year. Please subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications, and let's have a great 2023. But let's remember, what we owe to others is not a piece of ourselves when it comes to being transgender. We owe others the importance of education, support, understanding, parenting that can say no, and things like that. I think that's the building blocks of a better society. And if one is truly transgendered, no, that person will walk over fiery hot coals to be who they need to be. And it won't be because society told them this is probably what you are. Thanks, everybody.